Hello, it's Simon Zucchi here. I'm the founder of the CrowdProperty peer-to-peer lending platform. And on this video, I want to talk to you about how you can fund your HMOs using CrowdProperty. So in this presentation, what we're going to cover is give you a bit more information about CrowdProperty. We're going to explain why you should be using CrowdProperty, what kind of deals will CrowdProperty fund, the challenges in funding HMOs or houses of multiple occupation. We're going to talk through a couple of HMO funding case studies. We're going to get to consider, is CrowdProperty right for you, and make sure you understand our lending criteria. Before we start that, let me talk a little bit about CrowdProperty. So CrowdProperty is a peer-to-peer lending platform designed to facilitate loans between private individuals and professional property businesses. CrowdProperty is authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority under interim permission. CrowdProperty is not covered by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. There are risks with any loan you make, and your capital is at risk. CrowdProperty endeavours to protect all lenders. This is done by registering the legal first charge against the property project. This means that in the very unlikely event that a borrower defaults on the loan, CrowdProperty will take ownership of the project and manage it for the lenders. Now that's a kind of a health warning that we normally give to lenders, but I wanted to make sure you understand that, because just like any other lender, CrowdProperty do take the first charge on any property, and if a borrower did default, we will take the property back and repossess that to get the money back to the lenders. It's just the same as any bank would do, any lender would do. I just want to make it very clear that's what will happen as the ultimate if someone wouldn't pay. Now, ideally, we do a lot of research and we only pick very good projects to avoid that. But it is an ultimate backup we have, and we always make sure we protect our lenders. That's our primary concern. So why should you be using CrowdProperty? Well, we are property people, so we really understand what makes a great deal. I don't know if you've ever tried to go to a bank and try to explain a deal you're trying to do. Sometimes they just don't get it, but we get what makes a really good deal. And we can now fund your purchases as quickly as 2 to 6 weeks. In most cases, we are going to be cheaper than bridging. We're not as cheap as banks, but obviously banks generally can't work that fast. And also, we would lend a higher loan to value than most banks and bridging finance companies. What that means is you use less of your money in the projects, which means you can do more projects. We can lend up to 100% of purchase price and up to 100% of development costs. Now, we don't do that in every circumstance before we get too excited. There are certain conditions attached to that, and I'm going to explain 2 examples where we have lent up to 100% of the purchase price. What this means is it minimizes your cash input, and so obviously you can do more deals. And finally, the interest is rolled up and payable at the end of the loan term. Now, this is really good in terms of your cash flow, because it means the interest is all paid at the end when you repay the capital. So what kind of deals will CrowdProperty fund? Well, first of all, we'll do new build development where you're knocking something down and rebuilding it, or even it might be a greenfield site. You've got planning and you're building a new commercial or residential building. We will do commercial to residential conversion. So if it's a pub being converted into apartments or HMOs, we've done a number of those. If it's office blocks being converted into apartments, that's exactly the kind of project you can fund through us. We'll also do freehold to leasehold title splits. And of course, we'll do houses of multiple occupation, otherwise known as HMOs. And that's what this particular video is all about. Now, there are challenges in funding HMOs. HMOs can be very expensive, so they have a large initial deposit, and often they need some money spent on them to bring them up to the required safety standards. So it can require a large amount of cash input, which is what many people struggle with. The other challenge is that the mortgage market is constantly changing. And some lenders don't like lending to HMOs, some do, but they have certain criteria. So, for example, some lenders want you to have experience as an HMO landlord. Some lenders just want you to be a normal landlord, but some want that HMO experience. Some lenders will only fund once you've got a fully licensed HMO. So, it's a case of, well, how do you get experience? How do you get licensed HMO if you can't fund the deal? So there's a bit of a catch-22 there. Some lenders will need proof of income other than income from property. And, it can be a challenge. So let's now look at two case studies, two projects we have actually funded and have been repaid on the CrowdProperty platform. So this is case study number one. It's a property in Hemel Hempstead. And in this particular case, the borrower, Michelle Kennedy, found a motivated seller, someone who's trying to sell their property. It was a 3-story, 5-bedroom townhouse in Hemel Hempstead, and it was on the market for $180,000. Now that is a very good price in that area for that property. Michelle had been watching this for a while. It had been on Rightmove for sale. It had come off, it had gone back on, and so obviously the seller was quite motivated. Michelle spoke to her and agreed a purchase. Now, if Michelle had done a traditional purchase, she would have had to put in, she would have a 75% loan, which would be $135,000, and she would have had to put in a $45,000 deposit, okay, 25% deposit. Then obviously she'd have to spend money converting it into the 6-bed fully licensed HMO that she wanted to have. And obviously if she owned the property and had a mortgage on it, she'd be paying the cost of the mortgage while she was doing that refurbishment work. Now, the end value of the property was expected to be in excess of $290 in good condition, and this wasn't in very good condition, but if it was in good condition, done up as a normal house, it'd be worth $290, so it'd be worth even more as an HMO. After 6 months, the property could have been refinanced to get all of her money out. So buying at that price, spending that amount of money would have worked really well, and she could get all her money back, which is a pretty good way to do it. But this project would have required at least $85,000 upfront capital, what with the deposit, the refurb costs, stamp duty, solicitors, those kind of things as well. So quite a large investment required to do this particular project, albeit a very profitable project. However, working with CrowdProperty, Michelle funded the project for 50% less of her own money. So let me explain how she did that. So basically, she secured a 3-year purchase lease option to purchase the property at the price of £180,000. And in the meantime, she paid £250 each month to the owner to cover the existing mortgage. Now, the reason the owner was happy to do that was because she put down an upfront option fee of £10,000, and that actually represented all the equity that was in the property. So the mortgage was about 170, the value was 180, the house was empty, the lady was spending money every month on the mortgage. She didn't want this liability. Michelle came in and paid her all of the equity, which was £10,000, and gave her £250 a month. Now that £250 a month was a lot less than Michelle would be paying if she'd actually got a mortgage, and she didn't have to put the huge $45,000 deposit in. Only $10,000 made a much better deal. Now, she had an undertaking, so she was able to get into the property and complete the refurb work, and she spent £30,000 on the refurb, okay, turning it into this 6-bedroom, fully licensed HMO. Once it had been turned into the HMO and it was tenanted, obviously Michelle wanted to complete the purchase, and then CrowdProperty lent her 100% of the purchase price, i.e. $180,000, and they gave her £25,000 towards the refurbishment cost. So not all of the refurbishment costs, but pretty much most of them. So Michelle got most of her money back. It was a loan of $205,000 secured against the end value of $290, and so it's just over 70% loan to value. Now, after 6 months, the property was refinanced on commercial valuation, and Michelle got all of her money out. So this was a great deal where she put a lot less money in because she came to CrowdProperty. A traditional bank would have wanted her to put that 25% at least deposit in, as well as spending all the refurb costs. Our next case study is one in Birmingham. This is on Halliwell Road, and this is a property that Tushar Shah agreed to purchase. It was a semi-detached property on the market for $215,000, and the plan was to convert it into a 7-bed HMO. Now, if he had purchased it in a conventional way, he would have had to use a traditional mortgage of 75% loan to value, so $161,250, and he would have put a deposit of £53,750 into the property. The cost of converting the property into 7-bed HMO would have been £40,000 plus the holding costs of the mortgage while he was doing all of the work. Now, in this particular one, he needed to get the change of planning, he needed to get the HMO license. So the first few months, he was getting that in place. Now, he was very confident he would do that because he's got a number of HMOs in the area, very experienced, knew exactly what he was doing, and knew that this would meet the planning requirements. Now, the end value of the property was expected to be $322,000 based on the rental income. And so after 6 months, he would be able to refinance and get all of his money out. To do this project, it would have been closer to £100,000 in upfront capital, which means it would have been very difficult to do. However, working with CrowdProperty, Tushar was able to fund this with 40% less. So let me run through the numbers. So in this case, instead of getting an option, what Tushar did was he agreed a 9-month exchange with delayed completion, what we call an EDC, 9-month exchange delayed completion. He had a key undertaking, which meant he can get into the property and start some of the work. So until he had the full planning, it was just kind of a light removing a few things. And then once they had the planning, they then went forward and did the full refurb. He put down his 10% deposit. So instead of putting down 25% to buy it, he only had to put down 10%, so £20,000 or so when he exchanged on the property. And then he spent £40,000 doing the full refurb, converting it into the 7-bed, fully licensed HMO. Once the license was in place, he then tenanted the property, and then we then actually helped him complete on the purchase. Now, with the rental income of $39,600, the property was worth $322,000 based on a commercial valuation. So we lent the full purchase price of $215,000. It meant that Tushar got his deposit back, his 10%, and all the money that was left in was just the refurb money. So this was a loan to value of 66.7%. After 6 months, he then refinanced it onto commercial mortgage to get all of his money out. So again, let me just highlight the real benefits of using CrowdProperty when you're doing these kind of deals. You see, in both cases, the borrowers invested less of their own funds into the project, which meant they get a much higher return on the money that was put in. Okay, so getting the same project, same profitability, but less money in means a higher return on investment. By adding value before the purchase, so controlling the property with an option or exchange delay completion, CrowdProperty were able to 100% fund the purchase price and a contribution towards the cost of works. The borrower did not need to prove income to fund it. They didn't. Sometimes you have to have the HMO up and running and providing the income to get the commercial finance. Well, we didn't need that because we knew the deal stacked up on its own. And in fact, in this case, both the borrowers were experienced HMO landlords, but we wouldn't have needed to have HMO experience to lend to them because we were basically funding the development. And then once it's up and running, they'll refinance it out with someone else. So again, this gets over some of the barriers that people might have normally if they want to fund HMOs. So why did these particular deals work for us at CrowdProperty? Well, the borrowers were actually very experienced investors. They knew what they were doing. And that's very important for us. We want to make sure people can deliver the project. They had found strong, profitable projects. You know, sometimes people approach us with projects and there's just not really enough profit in it because we're looking for at least 25% profit on costs. So if you're going to buy something and do it up and it's going to cost you $400,000, we'd want the value to be at least $500,000. So 400 plus another 25%, which is 100, would be 500. So there's got to be 25% profit on cost to make it work for us. They obviously gained control of the building and then brought it to us. They used creative structures to add value before the purchase. So the exchange delay completion and also option was used to control the property, get the work done, adding the value. And obviously, they had some of their own money to put into the project initially. When we are putting deals together, we want to make sure there's a balance between making it attractive to the borrowers. It's also got to be attractive for the lenders who are putting money into the deal. And if they see some money's gone in initially from the borrower, that gives them a lot of comfort and certainty. In this case, they both put the money in initially up front to do the refurb work. And some of that we refunded back to them once the projects were completed. And obviously, there was a clear exit strategy. You know, the strategies were to use these as HMOs. We understand HMOs. We were able to check the market to make sure there's good, strong demand there, which there was. So we were very confident, even if the borrowers didn't complete the projects or decided not to rent them out, so we were very confident that we could take them over and operate them to get money back to our lenders. So this really ticked all the boxes for us and worked very well for us. So you're going to think, is CrowdProperty right for you or not? Well, you've got to have experience with a proven track record, or you've got to be partnering with experienced people who can bring make sure the deliverability of the project. You've got to have a project that you're adding value to. This is not something where you're going to buy and hold, you're not adding any value. This is short-term borrowing. So there's got to be at least a 25% profit on costs in the project. Loans typically are between 200,000 and 2 million. That's our kind of comfort zone. Interest is charged at 10% per annum, and there's an arrangement fee of 5%, which is where we make our money. Now, the 5% includes all of the costs. So, for example, if you go to a bridging company, they'll charge you, 1 or 2% to go in, 1 or 2% to come out, and then often you'll pay their legal fees, which can easily be 1%. So instead of that, we put everything in together. We pay for our own legal fees. You only pay for your legal fees. There's no exit cost. It's just this one upfront fee once we fund the project for you. And as I said, typically projects are 6 to 18 months. We do want planning permission to be in place before we can actually fund it. So you can talk to us before you've got planning. Once you've got planning in place, we'll fund that project for you. And CrowdProperty always take a legal first charge on the property on behalf of the crowd. So if you already own a property that has a mortgage on it, what we might do is replace that mortgage and maybe giving you, if there's a lot of value in the property, even a little bit of extra cash out, which you can use to then start the development work. Once you've done some of the work, we can give you more money to fund the deal. So each case is different. The best thing is to talk to us about it. We are property people. We understand property. We'll get what you're trying to achieve, and we'll tell you very quickly if we can lend to you or not. So let's consider the process very briefly. We attract successful developers who are looking for loans, and we use our property experience to conduct extensive due diligence. And when we like a project, we'll give it our stamp of approval. We then fund the model. We used to have two models. It's really just one model we fund now, really, but we can guarantee the loans happen in a certain amount of time. So we commit to a timescale with you. We put it on the platform for all of our lenders to view, and then people make a pledge. They don't send any money till all the money's been raised. Then they send the money direct to our solicitor, who secures the first charge on the property. And then we monitor the project on behalf of all of our lenders. And then the funds are returned at the end of the loan along with all the interest. So that's really important for you guys to understand that if we say we're going to lend you 300,000, many bridging companies might say they'll say that, but they'll take off all the interest in advance and only give you 260. So you have to put a lot more of your own money in. So the interest with us is paid at the end of the project, which is much better for cash flow. And you can actually pay back early as well. So you might say you want to have it for 9 months. You can pay back after 7 months if you want. The minimum loan is actually 6 months. So how do we assess lending opportunities? Well, basically, borrowers will approach us to do an initial application on the website, which is very simple. If it passed the high-level criteria for both the borrower and the project, then we invite people to make a full application. Typically, at that point, we will get you to do a RICS valuation. So what's the property currently worth and what will be worth once you've added the value to it? We then do our in-depth research on you, the borrower, and also the project. And then if you meet all the criteria, we give it our stamp of approval and issue an offer letter to you. Once you have an offer letter, if you accept that, we'll put it up on the platform within a week. At the moment, we're fundraising very, very quickly, within a day or so, and then it's just down to the legals to complete the transaction. Normally, 3 to 4 weeks is what we kind of like to do that. So the whole process can be as little as 2, maybe up to 6 weeks, but we'll agree a date with you. So it can be funded much, much quicker than a traditional purchase. So once we approve a project, when it comes through to a team of us, I assess deals. And obviously, I've been investing 22 years. I've got quite a lot of experience in property investing. Andrew Hall as our main project director. He's been a chartered surveyor for over 30 years, specializing in construction. And then Mike Bristow, who is also a successful investor, mainly investing in London, also a management consultant. So a very good way of looking at deals and things. So that's the approval team. So in summary, we are open for business and we are looking to lend money. We can fund refurbs, new build, commercial resi, title splits, and obviously HMOs. And obviously you can talk to us about how we could fund your projects. You know, there's someone you can actually call up, you put the application in, we'll speak to you and talk you through it as well. As property professionals, we really understand what makes a great deal. And that's why we might lend more money than a traditional bank or a bridger. And we could fund your property projects in as quick as 2 weeks. And for loans longer than 6 months, we're often going to be cheaper than bridging. Our minimum loan length is 6 months, because less than that, and we're not going to be cheaper than bridging, but longer than 6 months, we are cheaper because our monthly interest is generally a lot lower than most bridging companies would charge. Our monthly interest is 0.83%, and obviously that's paid at the end of the loan. And also we could lend a higher loan to value, which means obviously less money put in. Interest is paid at the end of the period, and obviously you can repay early with no penalty, subject to a minimum of 6 months. So what are your next steps? I'm going to take questions in a moment. Basically, make sure you understand our lending criteria. When you find a suitable project, contact us for an initial appraisal. So all you have to do is go to the website, which is CrowdProperty.com. Register as a borrower. You can then log in, and there's a little application form you could fill in when you have a property you want us to take a look at. It might well be that a certain deal doesn't work for us. That doesn't mean we won't lend to you in the future. It means maybe just this particular deal and the way you're doing it doesn't work. If we do approve it, however, on a top level basis, we'll come back to you and invite you to put in a full application. Then make you an offer, you accept the offer, we raise the funds for you, we successfully complete the project, you come back for your next loan. We're looking to build long-term relationships. We've got a couple of borrowers who have done at least 3 loans with us on the platform because they like dealing with us. The other thing is, because you're on CrowdProperty, you're getting third-party endorsement from us because we only put great deals on there. So we're saying that you've got a great project, which is very good if you're working with private lenders. It also raises your profile, and some of our previous borrowers have actually got more projects. They've been invited to do deals by other people because of the publicity that we've been able to generate through CrowdProperty for them. So that's pretty much what I wanted to cover, and I would love to get more questions from you. So let me do some of that. So Sayu says, is your charge of 10% per annum fixed, or is it variable depending on the project? It's 10% per project, but that's per annum, but it varies obviously on the length of loan. So if it was a 6-month loan, we'd be charging you 5% for that 6 months. If it's a 12-month loan, we would charge you 12%. 10%. If it's an 18-month loan, so a year and a half, we'd be charging you 15%. So it's 10% per annum, calculated actually on a daily basis, and you can pay back early if you want to pay back to us, okay? So question from a couple of people just saying they're arriving on the webinar late. That's okay, that's fine. So another question from Sayu is, what's the best way to structure the loan? Would it be via a property-specific SPV, or would you lend to a hold company which purchases property within in commingle with other properties, loans, existing property? Okay, so generally, when people are doing a development project, what they would like to do is they have a separate SPV, special purpose vehicle. So if you're doing a big development, you'll set up an SPV and you'll buy the property in that structure. That can be owned by you, can have lots of co-owners, doesn't really matter. And we're lending the money to the company for that particular project. If you have a holding company and it's appropriate, and obviously you need to get individual tax advice, what's the best way for you to structure it. But if you had a company that had other properties in it, that's absolutely fine. We'll lend to that. We do require a specific charge on the property that we are actually lending on. Okay, so really important that you understand that. So, you know, and we could talk to you about that, but generally people do borrow as a company. Question from Julie is, can you get a loan even if you have a bad credit rating? Yes, you can. We would declare that to all of the lenders. We believe in transparency at CrowdProperty, so we'd absolutely declare if you had if you had financial difficulty in the past or you had bad credit rating, we would declare that to all of our lenders. But you know what? Part of the very fact that the deal would be on the platform is because it's a very profitable deal. So, the deal should speak for itself. We're very careful who we lend to and the projects we lend on, and our lenders have a lot of respect for that. We encourage them to do their own due diligence, and there might be some lenders who may not want to lend on you, but because we have the charge on the building, we have all the security that we need in the event of any issue. Okay. So lots of people on the so Sarah's saying thanks for answering my question. Lots of people on the webinar, so please do type in any questions you might have. Aldu says, hi Simon, thanks for putting together this webinar. I recently asked the same question in a recent amateur professional workshop. My question is, I'm not sure on the exact value of my property. Not sure if there's another part of that question there, Ali. I've got lots of questions, so I'm scrolling through. So if there's another part of that question, because I've already started work, can I lend? Can I pay the? I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. Do you want to type that question out again? So I think what Alu's saying, you've already got a property, you already started work on it. Yeah. So if you own a property, you might have bought it cash, or you might have bought it bridging, you might have a normal mortgage on it. If we were to lend, we'd need to come and pay off any existing lending. Sometimes people buy with cash and they refinance through us to quickly get their money back out. We can certainly do that. If you already started the building work, you need to look at what you're looking to achieve from it. So you could obviously come to us and say, well, here's the situation, here's where I'm up to. Sometimes people have run out of funds and they need to refinance to get some extra cash to do the work. So again, all I would suggest is go to the platform, register as a borrower, and then make sure that you fill in the initial application. We're looking for projects right now. There's no deals right now on the website because every deal we put up is instantly filling. The last deal was for 210,000. It filled in 4 hours. The deal before that was £1,050,000. It filled in 24 hours. The deal before that was 200,000. It filled in an hour. So we need quality projects right now. We are very fussy about what we take on, because we want to make sure we're looking for it. Okay. Okay. Rob says, can I borrow for land purchase with a view to title split into individual plots? Yes, you could do that. It depends if the land has planning permission, Rob, because obviously we would want a valuation based on the land. So if you were going to, if you could demonstrate the value, because obviously if you're splitting into individual plots, you'd kind of have to have planning on those plots, I guess. So yeah, we could help you buy the land, but you'd probably need the planning permission. Then you could split it into individual plots and sell those off if you wanted to. Yeah, you could absolutely do that. Again, it all comes down to the figures. Okay. Oh, right. So so Ali's just saying he was talking about a RICS valuation. So when you come to borrow money, wherever you borrow it from, if you went to a bank, they'd want to get a RICS valuation. And so we would want a valuation on what's the project worth right now, and then what will it be worth once you've done all the work that you're doing to it. And as I say, it's very important that there's at least a 25% uplift in profit. So profit on cost, very, very important, because we know it takes longer to do deals than most people expect. Okay. Stuart says, hi Simon, if a project that CrowdProperty loan on goes wrong, i.e. does not proceed, how do you recoup the loan? Okay, so here's what we do. We always make sure there's some equity in it. And this is one of the reasons why we've had 2 deals where one of them, the borrowers decided they're not going to progress with the planning permission. Now, that's not due to be paid back until November, so they're just looking to sell or refinance it on. That's no problem, but they just decided not to move ahead for themselves. And we've also got a project right now that has had a challenge with planning, etc. And so again, they're not moving forward, and we've given the owners the opportunity to sell that at auction. It didn't happen at auction. It's got plenty of equity, and I think they were maybe asking too much for it. So we are going to be taking that back. So the whole point is by having a legal first charge on the land, on the building, whatever, we will step in and take that over just in the same way a bank would do that. We'll pass it on to an LPA receiver, but obviously we understand property, so we're going to make sure the LPA receiver does it in the right way. And then the loan will be paid back to all the lenders plus interest. If there are extra charges, they'll obviously be on there, and anything that's left over would then go back to the borrower. So obviously, these things do happen in property. It's going to happen at some point because that's the nature of property. We just do everything we can to make sure we protect the lenders. So this is why we like to see the borrowers have put some more of their own money in, if possible, so they've got some skin in the game. Or alternatively, we want to see there's some equity in the property, so they've added value so that the loan is a lot less than the value, so that if we had to take it and sell it quickly, we can make sure we get all the money back to the lenders. Okay. Chris says, is your lowest loan absolutely set in stone? Well, the thing is, Chris, because we charge a flat fee, a percentage, which is 5%, for loans less than £200,000, it doesn't really make it worthwhile for us. So we have considered a few loans that are less than 200,000, but we said to the borrower, well, actually, you might need to pay our fees because there's not going to be enough in it for us to make it worth our while, because we have quite a lot of costs associated in that. So it's not completely set in stone that way. You've got to speak to us, and that best thing is come and speak to us, and we'll see if we can help you or not. Okay. Andrew says, hi Simon, are HMO lenders accepting of crowdfunding? Who do you use? I'm not quite sure what you mean by the question, Andrew, because it's not a question of us funding the deposit. I'm not sure if you've been on all the webinar. We will have the first. There are no other lenders involved, Andrew. I'm not quite sure I understand your question, but I think what you're saying is there are no other lenders involved. We will fund it, and then once it's up and running, and especially if it's licensed and producing an income, there are then a lot more lenders you can lend it to. And here's the point. If you haven't, some lenders want to see experience as an HMO landlord. So what you could do is you could fund it through us, get your 6 or 12 months experience, whatever it might be, and then refinance it out with them, because by that point you will have the experience because you've been running it. So that's a way of getting over the experience thing with some of the HMO lenders that are out there. If it hasn't answered your question, Andrew, please type it in, clarity, and I'll answer the question for you. Lena says, hi Simon, would CrowdProperty help funding auction properties? Well, not really, because the problem with auction properties is it's 28 days that you need to complete, and you might not have all the information you need, like the RICS valuation and things. So we are probably not the best people to fund an auction purchase. We have actually helped people who've gone and bought things in auction, and then once they own it, they very quickly refunded it through us because we were cheaper than the bridging they used to actually buy it in the first place. So we could be used after auctions, but to actually purchase in auctions, we're probably not going to be the best people to use. Okay. Okay, so Michael said, I think I've already answered this. Someone else, do CrowdProperty help people to buy land? Yes, we do help people buy land. It will be, ideally we want planning permission on it though. You could always get an option on it, just as a piece of land, get the planning, and then we can help you buy it. And let's say you've got an option to buy something for 300,000, and you get planning and increase the value to 400, 450. Well, in that case, we can maybe give you all of the money to buy the land. So that is obviously pretty good. Sonia says, if we require a RICS valuation before and after, does that mean the before valuation is bricks and mortar and the after is commercial? No, not necessarily. It can be because the whole point is, remember, Sonia, we're adding value to property. So the before valuation is, well, what's it worth right now when we're buying it? And then the after is once you've done the work to it. So it's not necessarily commercial valuation. In the two case studies I talked about today, the first one, the 290 was actually the value of the property just as a normal bricks and mortar valuation. The commercial value was estimated as much as 380, but we just went on the bricks and mortar valuation. On the second example, the commercial valuation was 322, and so we used that. So it really does depend from deal to deal. Some HMOs, it's hard to get commercial valuation on. It really does depend on the area, and also I was speaking to a broker just about that today. Okay. David says, hi Simon, what's the percentage and profits for a typical deal? So a minimum profit that you need to be making in your deal is 25% profit on costs. So if a property is and the cost of 400,000, 25% of that is another 100. So add 100 onto 400 is 500. So your gross development value would need to be over 500. Now we've had some very, very profitable deals, I think up to about 40% profit. So, it's got to be a minimum of 25. That's the first thing. And in terms of percentages, as I said, depending on if you're buying at a discount, if you're adding value to the property before you purchase it through planning, etc., we will lend up to 100% purchase price, 75% of value, or if you're buying at the current value, it will be up to 75% of purchase price. Okay. Again, the best thing to do is kind of to put an application into us. Andy says, hi Simon, I'm not sure if I missed the point on 100% funding, but if I have a property with a 50% loan to value mortgage, can I secure a second charge against this and increase LTV on the next project? Andy, no, Andy, you can't do that. We will only take a charge on one property. So the property you're buying is the one we'll take a charge on. We are looking at that. Some bridging companies will do that. They would take the deposit charge on a second property, but that gets a bit more complicated. So that's not something we're offering right now, but it is something we're looking at. We are basically, we've been operating since 2014. We funded, I think, 23 deals so far, almost £10 million worth, and we are constantly, enhancing the offering to make the most for the borrowers and also for the lenders. So that's something we're looking at, but at the moment, that's the way we're doing it. Mohammed says, would you lend to a first-time developer? Well, Mohammed, the thing is, we need to make sure that you have experience in your team. So if you are completely new to it, you'd need to make sure you had a project manager who's coordinating the project. You want to make sure your architect was supervising it, etc. If you have the team around you that do have the experience, we'll look at the deal, we'll look at the team, and yes, we could well lend on that. But if you're trying to do it on your own, and you'd be surprised, we get some people who they bring a deal to us. They have we've talked to them about, but they have no idea about some of the costs involved, and the answer, I'm sorry, is a big no. But if you have a really experienced team around you, then we can actually do that. Yes. Alan says, is the 5% arrangement fee on initial purchase price or the final valuation price? It's 5% of the loan that you acquire. So if it's a £200,000 loan, it's a £10,000 fee. That £10,000 fee includes the legal costs that we pay for ourselves. Normally, you would pay that for the bridger, if you're buying from a bridging company. We cover that. It's the entry. There's no exits. That's all you pay to us. Okay, but it's of the amount you actually borrow. Andrew says, there are lots of property people around your business, so how confidential will a project be brought to you? If I could get funding from CrowdProperty, I wouldn't want one of your team nicking it. Actually, well, the thing is, If you thought we'd nick a deal, well, you haven't got much trust. So what are you coming to us in the first place for? Obviously, what most people do, Andrew, is actually they will actually secure a deal. We don't like putting deals on the platform until you've secured it, because it's not so much us you need to worry about, but if we're putting a deal up on the World Wide Web and we're telling thousands of potential property investors about this deal, you kind of need to have secured the deal. So that's why you need to either have an option, or you exchange on a delay completion, or it's something you already own. So that's kind of similar. So it's not really a case of any of us nicking it. It's a case of, just having a bit of common sense, really. If you had a fantastic deal that you wanted to buy, you wouldn't really go and tell everyone on Facebook about the great deal, because someone might come and undercut you. So same principle, you just need to secure the deal before you start telling people about it. But in terms of internally, we're not in the business of nicking deals. There are more than enough deals out there for us to do. We're pretty good at finding our own good deals anyway. Okay. Chris says, is the final valuation based on its commercial value for, say, a 5-bed HMO, or is it bricks and mortar value? I think we've had this question already. It really depends on the property and the area. To get a commercial, it's really important you understand this, guys. To get a commercial valuation, there are some lenders that won't do it in certain areas. I don't want to name any areas because the mortgage market constantly changes, but I was speaking to a broker today about a property I have, and we talked about two different lenders. And he said one lender will do commercial valuations, but in the particular area that I have this property, they said they will not do commercial valuations because they don't think there's any end market. If it's not used as an HMO, there's no other use for it. So they don't do it in that particular area. Also, to really get a true commercial valuation, to get commercial funding, the property needs to be such that it's not really a house anymore. It can't be used as a normal house. So that's got to be things like probably all of the rooms having en suites, your locks on the doors, those kind of things. And so it is seen as a commercial property, not someone's home. And so it's a bit of a fine art, really. You need to be, if you're looking to do HMOs anyway, you need to get a really good broker who understands this and can help you with this. Okay. Julie's saying, I'm an experienced developer. Am I an experienced developer if I have project managed 2 6-bed HMOs? Well, if you've project managed a refurbishment of 2 6-bed HMOs and you're looking to do another 6-bed HMO, I'd count you as an experienced investor. Yeah, because you've done it before and obviously you've done it successfully. So yes, that absolutely works. Okay. Julie says, does taking property back affect your credit rating? Well, yeah, if we repossess a property, that's going to affect your credit rating. Absolutely. Don't get properties repossessed, guys. Generally, good rule in property investing. Make sure you do your numbers, make sure you can fund them. So yeah, really important to do that. So Andrew just clarified his question. He said, meant to say, if I could not get funding from CrowdProperty, I wouldn't want someone else nicking it. So let me explain the process again, guys. You put in an application to us, which is confidential. We're not going to nick any deals. That's not what we're in business for, okay? We want to help fund deals. And we will tell you very quickly if it's something we can fund or not, within a working day. So you can go and find funding somewhere else if it's not the kind of thing that works for us, if it doesn't meet our criteria, okay? If it does meet our criteria, we'll then do some in-depth research. We'll need you to get the RICS valuation. What's it worth now? What's it worth once you've finished? Then we can put it up onto the platform, okay? And at that point, you'd pay a 1% fee. We'll enter into agreements, we put it on the platform, and you need to have secured the property, whether you've got an option or whether you are exchange delay completion. So you secure it. So, if we put it forward, it's very unlikely someone else is going to fund it, because once we put it on the platform, we guarantee to fund the deal for you. That's something I didn't mention earlier. We use underwriters. What that means is even if the crowd decide they don't particularly like it and don't come up with all the money, we guarantee we'll get it done by using underwriters. Okay? Michael says, is it better to refinance at the cost incurred rather than the added GDV to save on capital gains tax? And then place in a trust with a dominant limited company to save on tax. Okay, I'm not going to give any specific tax advice on the webinar because it very much just depends on your case. So that's where you need to speak to your tax accountant about, and then come to us, tell us how you want to structure the deal, and we'll tell you if we can do it or not. Okay. Linda says, I have a pub with a hotel, would like to do service accommodation. There's nothing area next door, close to the train, a bus station. Would need planning to put another level on top. Now purchase was 900, but she's motivated, and she may accept 650. Would you be interested in some of this, Simon? So yeah, it depends. What's the end GDV? So whenever you look at a project, you look at, okay, what's it going to be worth once I've done what I'm doing to it? And the thing to remember about CrowdProperty, it only works if you're adding value to the building. Okay, if you're not adding enough value, you've got to add at least 25% profit on top of the cost of buying it and doing all the work. If you're not doing that, it's just not something we're interested in. The reason we do that is many people do for a smaller margin, and guess what? They take longer than expected, cost more than expected, and they don't actually make any money from it. So it doesn't really help them anyway. So, that's why we're insistent. We want to make sure you make enough profit to keep it interested. So all you have to do is work out what's the end value, what do I think I can get it for, what are the costs to do it. If you're making at least 25% profit and costs, that's exactly the kind of deal we want to look at. Come to the website, put in the basic details, go to the borrower section, and we'll tell you if we can do it or not. Chris is saying, are you saying you would lend to someone's on first project? How much experience would I need before a project would be fully considered by CrowdProperty? I'm just starting out. Okay, so it really depends what the project is. If you're just starting out in property and you want to do a big block of flats, you're probably not going to get any lending from us. However, if you are, if you've got a couple of if you've done a refurb or something, you've done one refurb and you're going to do an HMO refurb, and you had people involved, project managers, architects, etc., then we could lend. So this is not a platform for complete newbies. If you're completely new, got no experience at all, you probably shouldn't be doing big development projects anyway. That's quite risky. You want to do other things instead, the less risk first of all. But if you get a team around you, that can help. Okay. Aldo said, can I pop into the CrowdProperty office to show you my project? Yeah, we do have people in the office. You can do that. But you know what? It'd be much better if you, to save everyone some time, just put in the headline figures into the initial application on the website, and then you'll be able to tell you very, very quickly if it's going to work for you. Okay? Okay. We're not going to time to get all these questions. Hi, I have a deal going through. 315,000 office building with planning for 15 flats, 12 2-beds and 3. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing we would do. We just need to understand. We just need to understand all the numbers on that. Looking at what you've put, I think it might just be enough margin. But if you just go to the website, anyone who's got a potential deal right now, just go to the website, go and fill in the borrower application, and very quickly we will tell you what we can do. Okay? Okay, I'm just going to... So we're almost out of time, guys. So I'm just going to see if any other questions. Someone says, instead of just offering first charge on the 300 office conversion, can I offer a second property to have a first charge on to reduce my interest rate? Again, we generally just take a first charge and it's on the property which you're doing the deal. By all means, approach us and we're going to have a look at things. We are looking to make the service better if at all possible. Okay? Okay, Charlie said, can I have a copy of the slides? What we're going to do, I have recorded this, so I'm going to send this out to everyone who's registered for the webinar. Look out for the recording coming out. You're able to watch it, go through at your own speed, okay? So I hope that helps. Okay, Caroline said, hi Simon, you mentioned that you look for experienced people, but if we're just starting out and do not have a power team, that you know or experience in property themselves, would you consider? No. So you've got to have an experience. If you're new yourself, you've got to have a team around you know what we're doing. And by the way, I would suggest please do not do big deals unless you do have a really experienced team around you. Sometimes new investors are a bit tight. They don't like spending money. They try and do it all themselves, and they end up costing themselves an absolute fortune. So please be very, very careful. Okay. So guys, I think that's pretty much. So someone saying, what's the web address? It's dead easy. It's crowdproperty.com. Crowdproperty.com. Rather than call the office, if you go to the website, put in your details, register as a borrower. It's completely free. Once you're logged in as a borrower, there's a section you can submit deals to us. Put it in, and we will come back to you. We will contact you and discuss the deal, and we'll tell you very quickly if it helps. So one more time, that web address is crowdproperty.com. I think lots of people on here have got potential deals. Do come through, and we're looking to fund deals right now, so maybe we can help you. So thank you very much for listening. I do hope you got some value from this. We're going to be doing some more webinars about how we can fund development deals in the future. So look out for those, and we have some more case studies on deals we've actually funded. Thank you very much, and good night.